everyone, and I hope you are all doing well. And to be honest, I never thought that my first video in English, if you don't count live streams, would be about one of my favorite series ever, The Adventures of the Glorious Lara Croft, Tomb Raider, a game brought by a small British development team named Core Design, and I'm sure it will be the same for most of you, that has been present in my life for quite a long time. Quite a big franchise, if I may say so. And, well, as we all know, Tomb Raider had its highs and lows, and it's a game that changed a lot of times with revamped design, a revamped way of telling the story, and also a revamped Lara Croft. So we are going to talk a little bit about the series, and in this video it will be about the very first game, Tomb Raider, for the PlayStation 1, Saturn, and PC. We can't deny the huge impact that Lara Croft had in video games, principally during the PS1 era, ending up being an icon for several players, both male and female. And it all started in 1994, when the development of Tomb Raider started. Believe it or not, but at first the protagonist of Tomb Raider was to be male, but this was scrapped due to the fears of the character being seen as a copy of Indiana Jones. And well, due to that, Toby Gard, a key element in the franchise, changed the gender of the character that saw several revisions during early development. One of the early drafts had a completely different protagonist, a South American hero named Laura Cruz. Although, and well, considering that Eidos Interactive wanted a game that would be a little more appealing to the British audience, this idea was left behind. And that's how a British hero was born. And as for the name, well, it's claimed that the name Lara Croft was chosen because of similar sounding British names found in a directory. Other people say that it was to pay homage to an accountant named Laura Croft, but no one knows for sure. As we all know, Lara was designed with a braid, something that is completely missing in the game, well, at least during gameplay. This was due to the issues, as it wasn't behaving as expected with all the acrobatics Lara had to do. Gavin Ramery, the programmer of the first two games, mentioned that it looked more like an electric eel was attached to her head and had a life of its own, which was corrected in the following games as the team had more time to work on it. Originally launched on the 25th of October 1996, Tomb Raider was available on the PlayStation, Sega Saturn, PC and Mac OS, coming later to the N-Gage, Pocket PC, iOS and Android. This will be the first video of the Tomb Raider Retrospective series. While I don't guarantee that I will cover every single game, you will see at least all classic Lara era games from Tomb Raider 1 to Tomb Raider The Angel of Darkness. One thing that the developers thought about was to create a tutorial level that would have us discover Lara's home. Not only this was a perfect occasion to know how to handle your friend, but also a way to get closer to Lara. After all, it's her home we are talking about. They even went the extra mile and added some kind of context in order to justify some platforming we need to do, to get through, of course. As for the controls, well, welcome to the wonderful world of tank controls. Lara's movements were specially designed for the D-pad, as no analog system were around on the PlayStation and Saturn back then. People who played games like Resident Evil or Alone in the Dark will feel at home with that system, with the difference that Tomb Raider's camera is kind of dynamic and not fixed. After being welcomed to her home, Lara will show us a little place while explaining how to move her. Jump, roll, swim, shimmy, push, pull, draw, shoot, heal, repeat. Well, nothing much to know about her set of skills. To be honest, if you are like me, you will spend more time to understand if she can make a jump or survive a fall. Whoops, apparently not. Although not all situations are present in the mansion, the developers were very clever to add some kind of gym where we will be able to test all kind of jumps. I must say, however, that the architect of this place did a strange planning. You see, this gym was supposed to be a ballroom, a little dangerous to have such a place near a swimming pool. Well, then again, it's a perfect way to get rid of a bad dancer.
Move me around underwater.
Once we are done with all the jumps to learn how to avoid breaking Lara's neck, it's time for a small dive and learn how to control her underwater. And, well, actually it's not bad at all. Lara is quite responsive underwater, retaining her tank mechanism, which will be very useful for some levels. Alright, time to get out of this wet clothes and get shit done. We have some adventuring to do. Lara's adventure starts in the cold parts of Peru and... wait a minute. Damn, that must be hell of a poncho. How can she endure such cold weather with these very, very little shorts? Oh well, video games, I guess. Well, Lara and her faithful guide, let's call him like that, are en route to the tomb of Kolopek. After throwing with perfect precision a never-ending rope to the top of a huge gate, Lara climbs it and presses a button to open it. I wonder how she knew what to press in her first attempt. I mean, well, whatever. The gates open and a new unexplainable thing happens. Inside, a pack of wolves were waiting for their next victim. And, well, I say unexplainable because there's no other way to get into that cave, and I really doubt someone has been there for some time. Anyway, the wolves quickly jump out and fiercely attack Lara's guide, and our faceless friend quickly cuts the rope. I mean, she could have just let it go and fall to win some time. Well, and shoots at the pack while in midair. As a note, if I was the one controlling Lara, she wouldn't have survived such a fall. Looking at you, video game injustice. After killing the wolves, Lara quickly forgets about her guide's unfortunate demise and enters a cave not knowing what is waiting for her. She removes her signature sunglasses, lifts her eyebrow. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Tomb Raider. The first level is quite easy, well, as in most video games. You are welcomed with a huge cave where you will be able to test drive Lara's movements. Traps here are easy to dodge and enemies easy to kill, nothing to it. The perfect place to get familiar with the game and have a small taste of things to come. And yes, you will be alone in this one. And that's where Tomb Raider shines. It's not just about exploring and platforming, it's the non-ending loneliness sensation that the game gives to the player, and it's well done. Lara won't have the traditional audio cues we are used to in modern games, possibly due to storage issue in the PlayStation and Saturn's disc. To counter that, the devs added some focus moments where Lara will look at a point of interest or route she needs to take. This level will also present us the atrocious save system, if you are not using the PC version, of course. Lara will be able to use these small blue crystals to save her progress, so you will be finding these during your progression, of course. And I must say that in the PlayStation 1 version, this was quite limited because you could only save in that precise spot, and we all know how unforgiving Tomb Raider can be, so you needed to calculate whether you would use it or not. While in the PC version that was quite easier because you could save whenever you wanted. While we continue to explore the caves, we will start to see some ruins of what looked like some kind of temple. After some jumping, killing, some more jumping and switch pulling, we finally enter what seems to be a lost city. The second level, City of Vilcabamba, is where the game really starts. We will be presented with a new set of traps and have Lara's first swimming section. Right in the beginning of the level, we will also witness the limitations of Lara's combat system. Well, basically it's aim, shoot, roll and jump. But this can be quite tricky in some places due to the camera system, principally when Lara is surrounded by enemies as there is no easy way to switch between targets. And this gets worse later in the game when you are presented with enemies wielding guns. and something that got even worse in the next entry of the series, but that will be for another time. You see, jumping and dodge rolling is a good way to evade enemies' attacks, but it can also put you in a worse situation, as you don't have a perfect visibility of where you are jumping to and if an enemy is waiting to surprise or flank you. Well, what would be life without a challenge? This level also rewards the player that are curious enough to do some exploring, as the game offers several secrets, and some can be well hidden. Secrets are a good way to get ammo, medipacks, and some early weapons. For example, in this level, you have a secret that is behind a wall that can be opened by pulling a switch that can be missed in one of the underwater tunnels in the level. Pull the lever, swim to the room where the door is, and ta-da! Here are some goodies. And yes, as the terrible explorer that I am, I missed most of the secrets. What a shame. To be frank, the secret system not only gives extra playtime, as it will force us to explore every inch of a level, but it also makes sense, considering that an archaeologist will most likely find lots of secrets in the lost tombs. No wonder Lara is not doing it for money, she can sell all the bloody stuff she finds in the way. After exploring the city, doing some swimming, basic platforming, pulling some levers, killing some enemies and dodging some traps, Lara is getting closer and closer to the Skian. I still wonder why a rich woman such as Natla is looking for that little trinket. Oh well, I guess it's a good way to get some physical exercise done. Sightseeing done, it's time to leave Vilcabamba and get into a crazier part of our adventure. The Lost Valley is the third level of the game and where shit gets crazy. This is also where the game starts to open up a little bit with some backtracking. Lara's goal is to open the entrance of the tomb of Qualopec that is blocked by a huge waterfall because she doesn't want to get wet while passing through. Oh wait. I'm sure there's a good explanation for such a task. In order to change the course of the water, we will need to find 3 gears that are scattered around the valley. I recommend going left when starting the level, as you will be able to pick up the shotgun for the upcoming dangers. Some basic platforming, exploring, and there it is, next to its previous owner that, well, apparently wasn't as lucky as us. No need to do all the jumping to return where you were, as you can simply jump back into the water and let the flow drag you to the lower parts of the level. After killing some more wolves and climbing some rocks, man, I hope Peta doesn't watch this video, you will eventually reach some vegetation, and this is where things get crazy. Lara will quickly be greeted by a group of raptors, something we wouldn't hope to find in this place nor time. After taking care of them with your dual pistols, you will soon realize that it's not the only weird Jurassic piece present in these adventures, as you will quickly find something bigger. Way bigger. A goddamn T-Rex. What the hell is this thing doing here? Well, as scary as it seems, the T-Rex is pretty easy to deal with. You can either use your brand new shotgun or continue with the dual pistols. After killing the last of his kind, we will continue to venture in the area to recover the missing gears. While this place is gorgeous, it's where we can see the hardware's limitation. A good example is the black ceiling that was supposed to be a skybox. This is also the place where we will start to have some challenging jumps like this suspended bridge. Nothing our friend can't do. After retrieving all the gears and turning on the huge contraption that we saw at the beginning of the level, it's time to finally enter the tomb. The last level of the Peru section is quite shorter than the previous one. Lara will need to make her way to the Skian by finding and pulling some levers to unlock the way to the upper level. Of course, the way will have some traditional enemies and traps that we have been finding since level 1. You see, Core was actually kind with the players, giving a whole section to prepare for the things to come. The difficulty is well paced throughout the game. Tomb Raider is not a hard game, mind you, when comparing with the other games in the series. Looking at you, Tomb Raider 3. After doing what she does best, that is, killing endangered species, Lara gets to the Skian and tries to escape the crumbling temple. Once we are out of danger, surprise surprise, backstab time! Larson, that apparently shots first and asks questions later, starts shooting at us for some reason. I think he forgot to read the magazine he handed Lara at the beginning of the game, as the articles surely described how she downed Bigfoot. And, well, no offense Larson, but you're not Bigfoot at all. After quickly dealing with Ken Wannabe, we soon discovered that there are more pieces of the Skian out there, and that Natla is after all of them, although her motives are still unclear. Looks like raiding tombs seems to be only one of Lara's hobbies, considering how easy it was to raid Natla's office. There, she finds out where the next piece of the Skian is and that someone else was sent to retrieve it. The famous, stereotypical French treasure hunter Pierre Dupont. I mean, how much French can you get? To be honest, it could have been worse, considering that when the game was made, people wouldn't get offended that easily. The first level of Greece is quite the gauntlet. St. Francis Folly. There, Lara's skills, and yours with the controller, will be put to the test, as every corner of the level is a death trap. I won't lie to you, you will die a lot. I mean, this game has a lot of trial and error, and Lara has a lot of ways to meet her end, which brings us to a special section of this video. Lara's suffering! Here are some of the top Goodnight Lara's moment of the game. Quite unforgiving. We start the level being greeted by lions. Seriously, I keep wondering how these animals get in there. They should have been starved by now. Also, why didn't they eat Pierre? Yes, our new friend slash enemy that will follow us during the whole section trying to kill us is there. I must say he's bad at his treasure hunting job, and apparently it's not the only thing he's bad at, considering we managed to survive every single encounter with him. But rest assured, he will only be part of the challenge that you will encounter in Greece. Once we reach the main section of the first level, my advice is to save after getting a key, as you won't know what awaits you in the next challenge. Lara will have to beat 4 challenges in order to get keys to open a huge door because, well, video games. The challenges being linked to the Greek mythology, a touch that I thought was quite considerate. After getting that huge door open, it's time to tackle the Colosseum. The second level is similar to the first one. You see, the whole section will use a challenge, key, item, lever system to keep you going. A good thing is that some of them will let you choose which order you want to do stuff. The challenges created are also quite fun, clever and, well, of course, deadly. After killing some animals, pulling some levers and dodging Pierre's aim, I swear, I'm sure it was a stormtrooper in the past. Well, you will eventually beat what the Colosseum had to offer and swim to the next session, Midas Palace, which will be more of the same thing. I'll be honest with you, this level has the perfect place where the proverb "curiosity killed the cat" applies. You see, it's quite easy to know what a hand will do in a level called Midas Palace, principally when it's standing right next to the guy's statue. Well, to tell the truth, it got me the first time. Well, try to guess what happens when you try to answer some questions you have in your head and jump onto Midas' freaking hand. Yep, you've guessed it, Golden Lara. While this hand can be quite deadly, it will also be useful to advance in the level, as this is where we are going to get the golden bars to open the main door. That man could have thought of an easier way to get around this palace. Once you've bested all challenges that Midas got prepared for his visitors and try not to fall to your death in more platforming, you will eventually get all golden bars that will open the way to the cistern. The cistern level is where things change a little bit in Greece, as the scenery will lose its brown-yellowish palette to embrace a grey one. One of my favorite levels, to be frank, and certainly one of the prettiest the game has to offer. This is also a level where you will have some backtracking, as you will need to play with the water levels of the main area in order to get some of the keys you need to proceed, but nothing Lara can't do. And, of course, our annoying failure of a treasure hunter friend will be here to pester us, and not in the most appropriate spots, as you can actually die if you're not careful enough. But Lara, being the badass she is, will, of course, prevail. The cistern links to the final part of Greece, the Tomb of Tyhocan, where the second piece of the Skion is, and also where we will encounter the first Atlanteans, and let me tell you, they can be quite annoying. This level is also the shortest one this section has to offer. Some platforming and swimming, and you will reach the final section of the level, where you will fight your first Atlantean, and, of course, finally take care of Pierre, that has the second piece of the artifact and the magnums, if you haven't picked them up already. Two down, one to go, and the final piece seems to be located in Egypt, where the Sanctuary of the Skion is located. Egypt is also where things get a little more complicated, as you will encounter several Atlanteans guarding the place. And good lord, these guys are annoying. Not only they are jumping all over the place as rabbits with rabies, but some of them also explode after you kill them. I mean, why would someone explode when he or she dies? Well, thankfully it's easy to avoid most of the damage during the blast. To be honest, this is also where I've almost stopped using my dual pistols and moved to the Magnum, as it makes fights much easier. The shotgun is also an option, although it's more effective for close targets. The first level of Egypt works as a central hub, as the obelisk holds the way to open the sanctuary. But in order to do so, we will have to collect some kind of talismans that are scattered in the second one. Nothing we aren't already used to. This whole section will also have some nice platforming areas and backtracking. This is also where you will find the uses, in a rather odd placement, and yes, don't be scared. You can jump onto that transparent platform and be rewarded with the best weapon of the game. I'd suggest keeping the ammo for the final part of the game, as things can get trickier. The levels here are also less difficult than the ones found in Greece, maybe because I've got used to the pace, even though there are some moments when you can easily miss a jump and fall to your death. Egypt has also some nice puzzles that will make you think about the course to take. Combat also gets much more annoying in this section, as your enemies will be faster, stronger, and will come from nowhere. And oh, for God's sake, they are really strong. Bye bye my beautiful stocks of med packs. Once we have taken care of the Egyptian's tomb, we will reach the sanctuary, where our dear friend Larsen is waiting for us. Well, I must say that Natla must be paying him well, as he didn't get the message after we kicked his ass in Peru. Oh well, looks like history repeats itself as we quickly take care of him and leave with the 3 pieces of the Skion. Finally, we will start to understand that Natla's motives are not very pure. Well, I guess we could have seen that right in the beginning of the game, as her and her goons are waiting to ambush us at the exit of the tomb. I mean, she could have asked nicely for the Skion. I have to say her company is quite interesting. We had Larsen and Pierre, that well, apparently weren't worth the money she must have paid them, and the other 3 guys that ambushed us, and I'm not kidding about their names. Bald guy, also known as Cold, that doesn't look at all like the person we see in the cutscene, Skater Kid, also known as Kid, and finally, Cowboy. Well, I guess Natla didn't have time to remember the name of her staff. Before we tackle the last part of the video, I need to talk about the musical arrangement. Composed by Nathan McCree, who at the time was an in-house composer for core design, the soundtrack of Tomb Raider is one of the most memorable that I had the pleasure to listen. Every track perfectly matches with what's happening on screen, and I need to say that they were also composed to stay in our heads. I mean, anyone that played the game will easily remember any track and know where it was played in that game. Perfection. Alright, now it's time to talk about the last section of the game that has some of the most interesting areas. At first, you will enter Natla's mines, where you will need to complete some puzzles and platforming in order to retrieve your dual pistols. This is also where we are going to take care of Natla's staff and get back all the weapons they took from us. Some areas of the mines are quite challenging and full of traps. I suggest saving when you can, as you never know what can be around the corner. Like here. Devastating. Yes, you've guessed it. The traps in this section are really unforgiving and quite aggravating. I must say the level of tension completely increases in this area. The background sound changes to a more anxious tone the further in you get, and the environment gets a little too bloody for my taste. I mean, who the hell decided to make walls of flesh and veins? Like if the whole place was alive. I remember someone trying that with a dress and had some mixed feedback. Oh well, I guess that was what the team intended. Not really what I had in mind for Atlantis, though. The interior of Atlantis will also be full of traps and Atlanteans ready to try to take down Lara. Well, fruitless effort, of course. This is also where we will find our first encounter in the series with Doppelganger Lara. Well, more like a red skinny version of E.T. if you ask me. I've seen people reporting a bug in this section where the doppelganger gets stuck and you need to load the previous save file, but I wasn't able to reproduce this. Maybe something linked to the version of the game or platform, I can be sure. We finally reach the center of the pyramid and try to retrieve the Skion that seems to be powering the complex. This is also where we learn that Natla was in fact one of the rulers of Atlantis and got imprisoned because she tried to abuse the power of the Skion to create a new, improved race of Atlanteans. Well, most likely the explosive type. After the big revelation, it's time to say goodbye to her as she falls to her death while trying to stop us in destroying the Skion. Well, unfortunately, we weren't fast enough to prevent the birth of Natla's creation. That, well, thankfully, seems to be incomplete. Don't let the size of that behemoth scare you, as the fight is pretty easy. It's just jump, shoot, and run around it. And you can also use your uses to make the fight much easier. Just make sure not to fall to your death. Now it's time to make our way back to the Skion and finish our job. The pyramid has some enemies and platforms to throw at us, but by now we are more than used to it. Once we reach the Skion and destroy it, it's time to escape as Atlantis seems to be collapsing. While this section is not big, we will need to watch our step as the whole place is unstable. Before reaching the end, we are greeted by Natla that, well, apparently didn't die and came with a new set of wings. Same strategy as ever, you just need to jump and shoot. This cockroach is pretty easy to deal with, and keep in mind though that you will have 2 rounds in this fight, with the same strategy in both. With Natla's demise, it's time to climb to the top of the pyramid and leave the place once and for all. Just in time before the big explosion, marking the end of the first adventure of Lara Croft. Man, this was quite the adventure, and I must say that Tomb Raider changed gaming industry in so many aspects. It was quite refreshing to finally have a female protagonist in the center of our attention, and quite the protagonist this is. Tomb Raider was a great game and all, but it was only the beginning of the adventures of our friend Lara Croft, as Eidos quickly greenlit a sequel, but that will be a matter for another video. Regarding this one, I do hope you enjoyed it, and thank you very much for being here with me. Feel free to leave in the comments your experience with the series, if you like it or not, or since when you've been playing Tomb Raider, and we will see each other for a next one. Regarding this one, if you liked it, feel free to leave a like, or if you loved it, you can subscribe, and take care everyone.